following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Alan Blumkin on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I'm here hosting another session of David Nemec's History and Nostalgia, which is something we haven't done in quite a while due to unforeseen circumstances. So, hope you enjoy this one today. Welcome, David.
Welcome to you, Al. It's good to have us both back and talking again.
Yeah. So today we're going to discuss upcoming rule changes and the rules they are as they are now. David, do you want to start this? Good.
Yeah. As it so happens, I'm working on a updated revision of a book on the history of the rules that I wrote a number of years ago. And I'm finding as I go along that the rule book for a number of years was actually pretty much unchanged during the 1990s and the early 2000s. But then suddenly things began to, wheel and deal rapidly, so that by 2018, last year, the rules book was completely different. Rule numbers were changed, rules were changed. So if you pick up a copy of a rule book in the early years of the century and compare it to the rule book now, you're going to be shocked at the differences you find, not only in wording and interpretation, but in the actual rules themselves. And a big one, in my estimation, was the elimination of having a pitcher forced to pitch 4 pitches in order to issue an intentional base on balls.
Well, that's saving almost all of 10 seconds.
Yeah,
they put that in as one of the things that would shorten the game time, and as I just said, it saves all of 10 seconds.
It saves all of 10 seconds, and it deprives fans of seeing, I believe it was the 1972 series with the Reds and the
A's.
And the A's.
Yeah.
And Raleigh Fingers was in relief in the 9th inning. I think it was in game 2 or 3 for the Reds. For the A's. And Johnny Bench was up with a couple of runners on base in a 3-2 count. And A's manager Dick Williams walked out to the mound, conferred with, Fingers and the catcher Gene Tennis, and then walked off the field. And then Tennis proceeded to stick out his right arm for the count 3-2, indicating that a free pass was about to be given. And Bench relaxed. And then Fingers came in with a slider right down the heart of the plate for strike 3. It shocked everybody in the stadium, brought the fans to their feet, cheering. And if you were there, you were lucky because you
that was in game 3.
Again.
That was in game 3 because
game 3,
I saw it on TV because I was that series. I was at all 4 games in Cincinnati.
Really?
Yeah,
that's terrific. That's terrific.
Our colleague Al Anderson. It was only a couple hours from there, and he had access to tickets. So I went out there both weekends that the Reds were hosting, and saw all those 4 games. And it didn't. I remember watching that on television, what you just described, and that happened, I think, in Game 3.
Yeah, Game 3. And what was your feeling when it happened?
Surprised.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember when I was something like 11 or 12 years old, I was watching a New York Giants baseball game, and Don Mueller came up. I think it was in either a late inning or an extra inning, and they would try to walk him intentionally, and they lashed out on the 4th pitch and wound up getting a single from it.
Yeah, all that is
yeah.
Fun. Many hitters did that when they're intentional, being issued what was, what they designed to be an intentional walk. I saw Boudreaux on television in 1948 when I was almost too young to understand what was happening. Cleveland was, I believe Cleveland was playing the Yankees. I'm not absolutely sure, but it was an intentional walk indicated, after was the count, I think, was like 2-0. And the next pitch was close enough to the plate that Boudreaux just threw his bat at it. And he hit a single into right field and foiled the whole thing. And there are a number of occasions throughout history where that's happened.
Yeah, I remember when they announced that they were going to institute the wave. I think it was before last season. With the waving, and I said to everybody I talked to, this is going to save all of 5, maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It was, there's a million ways that they can cut back on time, but they chose this way, which is incredibly stupid.
Yeah, and in a similar vein, I know you and I have both seen games where there'd be a runner on third and a runner on first, and the pitcher would fake a throw to third, and wheel around and fire to first and get the runner, catch the runner off first base. That's no longer legal, no longer allowed, no longer in the rule book. And I'm not quite sure what year that disappeared, but it's been very recently, and it too deprives fans of some of the greater moments. And it's really, I think it's a loss to the game. And there are going to be others, many others, I think, in the near future.
I wasn't aware that was disallowed.
Yeah,
until you just said so. One of the crazy ones is they're experimenting with in a independent league called the Atlantic League is stealing first base.
Yeah.
That if a pitch is a wild pitch or a pass ball, that the runner can run from home plate.
Regardless of the count.
Regardless of the count, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it'll be interesting to see how many batters actually do this if it becomes a major league rule. I mean, are you going to give up your swings, your time at bat, to try and run out a wild pitch on the first pitch? I don't know. I certainly doubt if some of these guys are going to do that. And there's a good chance the ball will ricochet back to the catcher. And why, as they'll say, why take the chance? And their managers are probably going to be in accord with it. But you'll see it happen occasionally, I think. And will it be good for the game? I don't know. I don't even know that.
Well, in this same league, they were using robot umpires, especially behind home plate, and some of the players were not all that thrilled with the way the robots were calling balls and strikes.
Well, but the robots were getting them right I think, a much higher percentage than regular umpires do.
Well, what happened?
Players are always going to be unhappy with close calls.
Well, what happened in Yankee Stadium last night? The Yankees beat Tampa Bay in both ends of a doubleheader yesterday, and Aaron Boone got thrown out for screaming and using F-bombs at this umpire who was a vacation call-up. The guy's not even a major league umpire, and obviously if he's any good, he would have been in major leagues a while back. And he was missing calls left and right, and Boone just had enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think unless I'm mistaken, I don't think there are any rookie umpires who were full-time umps this year in the majors, which usually there are a couple every year, but I think this year they're all at least veterans of one season.
So that's because of the union.
So this guy's up there vacation time, there are injuries, there
vacation call, it was a vacation call.
There's all kinds of stuff, just like with players where umpires can't make it, and in which case they do call up umpires from the minors. And it's really a shame that it happened to this kid, at such an early stage in his,
Well, the Yankee players were thrilled that, Boone, Boone stood up for them and everything. And this was, and they rallied and they won both games.
Yeah, you have to wonder if Boone would have tried to do this with Joe West behind the plate. I don't think so.
Probably not.
He picked on a rookie. He got what he wanted, and I don't. To me, I think it's to his discredit.
What happens when you bring in the AAA to fill a vacation slot? It spirals all the way down.
I know.
Because you bring AA to do AAA games and single A to do AA games, blah 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 blah. Right. and it has a ripple effect that can't be very good. But this is part of their
it's
contract they have with the umpires now. Of course, that's why they can't get rid. That's why they can't get rid of CB Buckner and Angel Hernandez, who are constantly rated as terrible because of the union. And of course, Angel Hernandez has the nerve to be suing baseball. He's not a crew chief because of his race.
Yeah.
The guys are totally incompetent. I mean,
he was.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a game last year in postseason game where he blew 3 calls at first base in the course of the game, and they replays overturned every one of them? Yeah, which was that kind of thing is absurd, but it happens. They
sent him over as part of the crew that umpired the 2 games in London last month.
Wow.
And
that must have been a treat.
Those games were incredible. As I told people, may have mentioned it to you, that I don't know what I was watching there with those 2 games. But sure as heck wasn't baseball.
How many home runs were hit total in those 2 games?
Oh, I don't know, but I know in the first game, the Yankees won 17-13, and there were 4 6-run innings. The Yankees scored 6 in the top of the first, and the Red Sox got 6 in the bottom. Neither starting pitcher made it out of the first inning.
Yeah.
And the second game was the Red Sox were ahead 4-3 until the 7th inning, and the Yankees scored 9 runs and wound up winning the game 12-8.
Yeah, I know they scored 50 runs combined in the 2 games.
Yeah.
Which
in this day and age is very, very unusual. I mean, it was just crazy just watching this stuff.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the possibility of that they're talking about this 3-pitcher minimum?
That I think is probably going to happen in the next few years in the majors. They're testing it now in the minors. It's at 3 pitchers, 3 you face 3 batters before you get out of the inning. If you come in with 2 out and
you're right. You're 3 batter minimum. My mistake.
So you're off the hook. But if you come in at the beginning of an inning, you've got to face a minimum of 3 batters, and if you put the first 3 on, then you're bringing in a reliever with the bases loaded and nobody out, which is not an ideal situation. So if you bring in a kid that's really wild and he walks the first 3 batters, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't pull him until the 3rd batter's walked. And it's I think it's going to happen because it's got to. Otherwise the pitching changes that for almost every batter in the late innings.
You've got a whole bunch of
13, 14 pitchers.
Left-handed specialists. All these teams are carrying 13 pitchers. It's absurd. I looked at the box on that giant Met game last night. Each team had used 8 pitchers. In fact, Blumkin had pitched 9 innings for the Giants. They still wound up using 8 pitchers.
Wow. Yeah, I think that one is going to happen. The rule I'm really interested in, and I really don't want it to happen, is if the game goes into extra innings, as would have happened in the All-Star game this year. They would have begun the 10th inning with each team starting with a runner on second base and nobody out.
Yeah, I heard that was 12th inning. It's supposed to be 12th inning, but I think that's
12th.
They've done that they're doing that in all the minors, even up to through AAA, and I just think it's absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. You're going to run into a situation. I mean, it's probably not. It's an unlikely one, but it's certainly going to happen, particularly if it's done after 9 innings, where a pitcher is pitching a perfect game, but meanwhile his team hasn't scored. He begins the 10th inning with a runner on second base, and he might retire 3 straight batters, but the 3rd batter will hit a ground ball that hits the base runner, and that's going to entitle the batter to a single, even though nobody has reached base safely against the pitcher.
No pitcher. I don't think any pitcher that As long as we're going to be watching, I don't think any pitcher's ever going to go 10 innings.
Well, that's a good
Again,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Dodgers did that with Rich Hill last year in a game in Citi Field. He had a regular no-hitter, and the Mets wound up winning the game.
Yeah.
1-0.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the anniversary of the Spahn Marichal Classic from 1963 was July 2nd, and somebody on Facebook put down that Marichal's pitch count was 227, and Spahn's pitch count was 201. I put down, I said,
do you believe someone actually tracked the pitch count in that game? You do?
Somebody figure, maybe listen to a play-by-play. I don't know. I saw a play-by-play of it, but they were able to establish the pitch counts.
Yeah. I suppose if you listen to a radio play-by-play, that's possible.
Yeah, if the radio play-by-play...
There wouldn't be any talking between pitches, and there would foul balls and stuff like that.
Yeah, and because I don't think they had the full games, any full game really archived until 1969. Because baseball's system of archiving is, compared to football or even pro basketball, is terrible.
Well, it had to
they
begin
got
much
snippets,
earlier, which is
and then they established the World Series highlight film. It came as being because of World War II.
Yeah,
I think 1943 was the first year that they put through a highlight World Series highlight film.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. It was an
so if it wasn't for that. Wasn't for that, and I have some of the earlier ones on VHS, which is doing me a lot of good now. But basically, they were put together because of this. I mean, and somebody did do a film of the Bobby Thompson home run in 1951, but else it wouldn't have been. That would have been lost to forever. Yeah.
They're very. I don't think they're. I don't know. I'm sure there were games that were filmed in their entirety, probably without sound, though. I don't know. It's hard to.
Well, during the 1986 World Series, during 1986 World Series, the Museum of Television and Television Arts, they managed to get 2 kinescopes of full games of the 6th and 7th game of the 1952 World Series. And I went to both nights, and people were rooting for the Yankees and Dodgers like the games are being played right there.
Yeah.
And when we were in Texas for the Sabre Convention in 1974, they had a kinescope with the first game of the 55 World Series, which was memorable in that Mantle was a late scratch, and the Yankees had Irvin Noren batting third. And then in Milwaukee in 2001, they had a kinescope of the 7th game in the 57 World Series. I didn't go to see that because somebody asked me if I wanted to go see that. And I said no, I saw the original. I didn't like it back then. But their archiving of games and big moments was pretty sad up until about 1969. But
supposedly this.
But the thing is, you can't. How can you tinker with this nonsense with putting a runner on in the next inning and starting with that? It's crazy.
It is crazy. It changes the whole complexion of the game. It certainly, changes record books. Record books have already been changed, and for Major League Baseball kind of wrecked record book almost permanently when they decided back in the '70s and early up till I think through the '81 season to round off the number of innings a pitcher had pitched. So that in 1981, when there was a strike, and and only half a season was played, Sammy Stewart, I believe, of the Orioles pitched 223 2/3 innings, and I can't remember the McCaddy, I think, from Oakland, pitched a few less innings, but he pitched. Stewart pitched 223 1/3, and McCaddy pitched like 210 2/3. So McCaddy was given credit for 211 innings, and Stewart was given credit only for 223 innings. Shaved a third of an inning off and gave McCaddy a third of an inning, and that decided the earned run crown. And it still sits there in BaseballRef.com. Although BaseballRef.com also wants to give the crown to Dave Righetti, and who, in a way, he had the lowest earned run average by a relief pitcher and part-time starter, true, but he didn't pitch a required number of innings. The Yankees played 105 games. I think his inning total was like 101.
Yeah, I've seen the 1949 American League. I've seen places where they list Mel Parnell and places where they list Mike Garcia. Now, 1950 and before, the criteria was 10 complete games. Of course, which now you never see. You have nobody qualifying. Yeah.
So early, you mean? I think you mean early win, 1949.
No, it was Garcia.
Was Garcia?
Garcia won the title in 1950 with a 320, which is still, I believe, the highest ever. Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I know. I haven't seen Garcia.
Yeah, and because I got to talking about Jim Hearn one day, or writing about him. It was his birthday, and somebody put down that Jim Hearn had two things that were unique. He, when he won the National League in 1950, he pitched 134 innings and had 10 complete games. And then he later in his career, he lost the game 2 months after he retired because it was one of those suspended games that they used to have in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh all the time because of that 7 o'clock curfew there.
Yeah.
So Hearn was. And they have other anomalies also where if a game is suspended and then resumed, the statistics revert to where the game started. Yeah, so you have situations where, because of the way the schedule is now, where a player can get a hit late in the game who had been in the minors when they started the game. Yeah. And not only does he get the hit, but the hit gets reverted to the original ballpark.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if you were aware of this stuff, but it came up a couple of years ago. Yeah, and it's gotten more crazy since these schedules, because you have this one trip in stuff all the time.
Yeah.
The old days, even when you had the 16 divisions with the 18 in and 12 out, it was enough to be able to stay away from this as much as possible. But once you had these one trip in situations dominating the schedule, I'm surprised this type of thing hasn't happened more often. But it's insane.
Well, what you're going to see someday is a kid come up late in the season, maybe who started the season with the team and was hitless, and and then when he gets into the suspended game, or he wouldn't even have to play in the suspended part of the game. He could play in the later innings and get a hit in say Citi Field, and the game actually started in Pittsburgh, and the hit will be credited. But from what I understand from what you're saying, the hit
it's the original ballpark.
It happened in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
which will turn out to be a park he never even played in.
Yeah, that's happened already. There's a Houston. I think there was a Houston Washington game a few years ago where that type of thing happened. You know, because they're playing an interleague series, and they had to make a special trip. Whoever was the home team in that during that initial series had to make a special trip because that's the only way they could finish that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the way the schedule worked out afterwards, and it's just, leads things to really corrupting the whole thing. And our mutual friend Scott Flato was saying when they first allowed the interleague play that it would corrupt both leagues' records.
Yeah, in a sense it has.
In a sense it has. I said, we don't make the rules, we don't make the scheduling, and there's basically nothing we can do about it. No. But I got into a discussion the other day about the Jack Reed game, where the 22 in relation to the passing of Jim Bouton, because Bouton was the winning pitcher in the Jack Reed game, where 22-inning game, where Jack Reed hit his only major league home run, off Phil Regan. And the Yankees won that game 9-7 in 22 innings. Game took 7 hours. And I watched the whole thing on TV with my brother. Then Berra caught all 22 innings in that game. Then when the Mets had the 23-inning game 2 years later, Chris Cannizzaro, of all people, caught that whole game for the Mets. I looked the stuff up on the reference because you could easily get into box scores.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, because they give you game logs. When you go into somebody's game log and you click on the date, and they'll give you the box score.
Yeah.
And and then Grody caught all 24 innings of the 1-0 loss to Houston in 1968. But when the Mets lost the 25-inning game to the Cardinals in 1974, of which I was there for the first 8, and I left because I had to go to work the next day. And the Mets were, I thought, safely ahead. Duffy Dyer and Ron Hodges split the catching duties in that one. But you had games where the catcher would stay in for all those innings, and I think that's something that's gone from the past. Also is this this business of the Yankees a couple of times have arrested Gleyber Torres, who's 22 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
A 22-year-old can't play every day?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the way it is now. Everybody gets a day off.
Yeah,
Very rare to see somebody play 162 games.
NBA has taken it to an extreme. Because they do that, and because with that league, for the most part, nothing really matters until the playoffs. But to see 22 years old, I mean, there's a story. I'm sure you must have heard this when I think it was 1949. Yogi Berra begged to have catching a second game of a doubleheader in Washington. It was like 100 degrees. And he comes in after the second game, and he's joking. They lost, and Charlie Silvera caught. And Berra's coming in smiling and everything, and DiMaggio who's out on his feet, shoots a look at him and says, "You're 23 years old, and you can't catch 2 games of a doubleheader." And Berra never asked out after that.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah,
that's a whole different, different kettle of fish.
I know. Well, it's the game is,
And I want to ask you one thing. To what extent do you think the agents run the game now?
Ruin the game?
They run the game.
Or run the game. Well, I think they both run and ruin it. So, it's unfortunate, but it's the owner's own fault because they let free agency creep in because they just were never willing to deal with the issues that were raised by the Kurt Flood case, which were all very legitimate issues. Had they done it, and done it in a logical fashion, they could have constructed a free agency that would have worked for both the players and the owners, and we wouldn't be in situations now where guys are getting, $420 million contracts for 6 years, and other guys, that were there's all kinds of stuff where the agent controls really what the player might want. The player just wants to play. Most of the time, the player isn't going to fight for between $8 million and $6 million. He'll take the $6 million. The agent wants him to take the $8 million, or go to arbitration, or they'll fight, or he'll sit out. I don't know. Is Craig Kimbrell pitching yet this year?
Yeah, he's pitching for the Cubs, and Keuchel is on the Braves.
So how long did Kimbrell end up sitting out before he?
2 months.
2 months.
2 months. So that'd be there's an unofficial day that after I think it may have been June 1st or whatever. There's an official day after. It was after the draft, the baseball free agent draft. The high school players and college players that they were allowed to, because they would trade draft picks before this. If they signed Kimbrell or Keuchel or whoever, and once the draft day passed, and the draft choice, they couldn't give draft choices up, because I don't think they can do it in future years like they do in football and basketball.
Yeah.
So once the draft deadline passed, that became all right to sign these guys.
Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are there any guys who are still sitting out who haven't been signed?
No, not of any quality. But there's so many pitchers that today Detroit, the listed star for Detroit, they're playing Toronto in the series of the weekend, that they're starting Jordan Zimmerman, who was 0-6 with an ERA of 7. This guy is listed as the starter.
Well,
Edward Jackson just got cut by Toronto.
Yeah.
So it looks like that was his 14th team. It looks like right now that'll be his last.
Maybe not.
But they bounce around, and you cut some guy, and somebody else gets hurt somewhere else, and they pick him up.
Yeah.
It's just really, really ludicrous. But
it is unfortunate. But the game we watched as kids was a different game. It was played differently. The players were different. Yeah. The owners were different, and the atmosphere of the game was different. People were really paying attention. I mean, you were in a crowd.
Well, now they were on the cell phones all the time.
Yeah,
if you look at on the cell phones,
or they're out at the hot dog stand, and they're out having a conversation, or they're sitting up in a bar somewhere in the stadium watching the game on TV. And,
you must have seen when you were younger, early Wynn pitch a lot.
I did.
And can you imagine Lopez going out there after the seventh inning, says we have pitch counters at 100, we have to take you out.
Yeah. No, if you were pitching well, unless there was some reason to take you out to save you for possible relief the next day or 2 days down the road, they'd let starters stay in. And
the really mean ones would tell them I had to get back in the dugout before I shove this up your ass.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and all players are like that. They didn't want to come out. They didn't want to be pinch hit for. They didn't want to be rested. They wanted to play every day. But if you rested, and the guy that came in for you went 4 for 4, and you were hitting 240, you might find yourself sitting for quite a while before you got back in there.
Yeah.
So it was. Yeah, and now 240. As long as you have 15 home runs or so, you're going to still be in the lineup every day. Talk about the way they use pitchers. This is all the way down to rookie league level. We have a rookie league team
not too far from here, called the Brooklyn Cyclones. They play out in Coney Island. There's a nice little ballpark.
Yeah, I've gone to a couple of their games. Yeah,
and one of my friends,
playing baseball.
Yeah, was at a game, and the starting pitcher went 5, had a shutout, and they were using different pitchers each of the last 4 innings. So that's the way it is, all the way down to the lowest of organized ball, and they come up, and this is what they're trained to do: go 5 innings, 6 innings, maybe 7, and then they're looking at the manager to get some reliever in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
but but the rule changes. It's I really think that by 2025, I don't know if the games are going to be shorter, but I think you're going to see a very different product on the field than you see now.
If I'm still around, I'll be 82.
Yeah.
Probably my mind will be so scrambled that it won't matter anymore.
Yeah, well, baseball could scramble it all by itself.
No, when you... what was it? Bill Terry once said, I think years and years ago, this game has to be great to survive the people that run it.
I haven't heard that one. That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Terry's the one who asked about. Yeah. Well.
You don't have anything else you want to add?
Well, there are some interesting rule refinements that are going on, and the hidden ball trick is another thing that that really brings up, a bit of nostalgia. I mean, I think I've seen one in actuality at a game in my life pulled off successfully. But it used to be, up until this year, particularly for first baseman, when there was a pickoff play at first base, the first baseman would pretend to flip it back to the pitcher, and in almost the same movement, slip the ball into his back pocket.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore. Now what happens if you do that? The umpire immediately calls time. Every base runner moves up 1 base. And if the runner at first is picked off, it's waved off. He's safe.
No, it's like a balk.
Now that is it's not a balk. It's
but it's like a balk.
It's like a balk. It's like a balk. The same rule applies basically, except it's not credited as a balk. And this is done too to speed up games, because in order to perform a hidden ball trick successfully, the fielder with the ball has to alert the umpire nearest to him that he has the ball. Somehow he has to catch his eye, because umpires are really looking. You can't depend on them to really be paying that much attention.
Yeah.
And you got to get the umpire. Sometimes that can take several seconds. Meanwhile, the pitcher is pawing around the mound. He can't touch the rubber or go anywhere near the rubber, or it will be called a balk. And time is going by, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. And the runner on third is just looking up in the stands or whatever. And then finally he steps off third base and slaps the ball on him, and it's an out. Which is, to me, it's a wonderful thing to see that. I really enjoy it. It's part of the game, and always should be part of the game. It's going to be gone. It's going to be. I can almost guarantee the hidden ball trick will be obsolete in 5 or 6 years.
As far as getting pitchers to get rid of the ball in 20 seconds, or batters not stepping in and out of the batter's box, and of course the biggie is anytime there's a pitching change, this call to the bullpen is brought to you by whoever. They give you 3 minutes of commercials.
Exactly.
It's those are the areas that they should really look upon as time-consuming, and they don't.
They don't, because they can't. That's where their money's coming from.
I know, yeah.
Comes from the commercial. Doesn't come from
that's why
to see a pickoff play or
That's why they'll never do it.
They'll never do it. And I think this whole thrust to try and shorten the game is really fraudulent. I mean, the owners really aren't that interested in shortening.
I know
the
that,
game.
yeah.
No, they're not. They really, they can milk every moment out of it because
the longer the game goes, the more stuff they can sell.
More stuff
Yes.
they can sell, the more the concession stands, everything works for them. The longer the game is, so right, and they're trying to shorten it. It's a front. It doesn't mean a thing. But,
okay, this has been a very, very good discussion.
It was.
A very, very good and enlightening discussion. I want to thank you for participating.
My pleasure once again.
Okay, and we'll try to think of something within the next couple of weeks.
Good.
In the meantime, I hope the people who listen to this enjoy it and get something out of it. Till next time, this is the Comfortably Zone Radio Network signing off. Okay, take care, David.